abandoned. The Libyan army claims to have 50,000 soldiers, more than 2,200 battle tanks and 945 armoured personnel carriers. But military analysts believe that years of sanctions and overall neglect have rendered much of the army's equipment useless.
Like any autocratic country, Gaddafi has probably for years been exaggerating the size of his armed forces. On the other hand, I would also warn that his forces, the ones around him now, particularly the 32nd Brigade, led by his son Khamis, is probably the best equipped in the army. It's received Western equipment, contracts inked in recent years. It's received outside training. And so, despite the obsolescence of some weaponry, despite the poor servicing of some of his planes, he still retains the very best equipment as against the rebels.
So, the Libyan army may not have the strength that it claims, but there's still a significant force on the ground. Analysts say that Gaddafi has a loyalist brigade made up of 10,000 to 12,000 troops, and those forces are trying to block the advance of the opposition and maintain control in western Libya. The heavy presence of loyalist forces means that Gaddafi still retains a strong grip on the capital, Tripoli, the town of Sabha, and his hometown of Sirte. It's thought that Libya destroyed its entire stockpile of chemical weapons in 2004 as part of a rapprochement with the West. It does have deadly mustard gas stored at a secret desert location, but no longer has the capability to deliver it. Small comfort for the rebels as they battle for victory. Tim Friend, Al Jazeera.
The White House has urged Yemen's President Ali Abdullah Saleh to address protesters' calls for reform. Meanwhile, thousands have been demonstrating in the capital Sana'a and in the northern city of Saada, with some protests continuing into the night. White House spokesman Jay Carney said that demonstrators are secular and the US supports their demands. Opposition parties presented the president with a set of proposals that they say form a roadmap to departure. Well, Hashim al-Habara has the latest from Sana'a.
This could be the last attempt to diffuse tension and break the deadlock here in Yemen. The opposition, after rejecting an offer for a national unity government, met with the clerics and sent a new proposal to President Ali Abdullah Saleh. They basically want him to resign this year to ensure a peaceful transitional period. And this is something likely to be slammed by President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who considers himself the ultimate constitutional legitimacy here in Yemen until 2013, the time when he plans to resign. This is a perfect scenario of a standoff, of a political crisis here in Yemen. And this raises concerns among Yemenis of a civil war or an armed confrontation between the supporters of Ali Abdullah Saleh, who say that we have to wait until 2013 and go for new elections and decide the future of the country. And the anti-government protesters who say that if Ali Abdullah Saleh doesn't resign now, they are going to call for a Friday of warning, and then they're saying that anger will sweep Yemen.
Hashim al-Habara reporting. The head of Tunisia's Islamist movement says it may join the interim government, and that comes a day after a two-decade ban was lifted on the group taking part in politics. Tunisia's interim government is looking fragile after a series of resignations. Nazanin Mashiri has this report from Tunis on a tense political situation.
This is where you can feel Tunisia's political mood. These young people have been camping here for weeks. The latest top resignations have made little difference. They don't just want those in power out, they want a complete overhaul of the system.
We want a transitional council because the interim government represents the Ben Ali era, and we want a parliamentary system.
The people say they are not responsible for these violent scenes from the weekend. A group called Takriz, which means anger, has claimed responsibility and is promising more trouble. All of this has left Tunisia's interim government very weak. One party that could play a role is Ennahda, an Islamist movement legalized for the first time in 20 years. Its exiled leader, Rashid Ghannouchi, could be a real political player.
Ennahda is the most structured party and has the largest network of people. But Ennahda, like all the parties here, does not have a political program.
A key date for all involved is March 15th. That's when the caretaker president's term ends. If he stays, it makes Tunisia's constitution null and void. If he goes, then the army will have to step in.
Tunisians have got used to seeing army out on the streets. It's soldiers, not police, who maintain security here. If the political situation isn't resolved in the next few weeks, there is a real possibility this country could be under military rule until the next election is called.
It was the uprising here in Tunisia that inspired people from around the world. But building a democracy in a country which suffered from years of dictatorship is not going to be easy. Nazanin Mashiri, Al Jazeera, Tunis.
Well, some news from Europe now, and 2 US servicemen have been killed when the bus they were on was attacked in the German city of Frankfurt. The US Air Force personnel were about to fly home when the bus they were travelling in came under fire. Sylvia Lennon has more.
The attack took place inside a bus at one of Europe's busiest airports. A lone gunman got inside the vehicle carrying US military personnel. Then he shot at several passengers just as it pulled into the terminal. One soldier and the bus driver were killed.
I would like to express how upset I am. The German government will do everything to find out what happened. I would like to express my condolences to the American soldiers and their families and relatives. It's a terrible tragedy.
Police have arrested one suspect. In a surprise appearance in the White House briefing room, the US President Barack Obama was quick to respond, saying he's saddened and outraged by the attack.
We will spare no effort in learning how this outrageous act took place and in working with German authorities to ensure that all of the perpetrators are brought to justice.
The German regional interior minister says the man being blamed for the attack is from Kosovo, but doesn't specify if he was a soldier or what the motivation could be.
We're investigating all possibilities. Whether there is a terrorist background, a jihadist background or an Islamic background, I cannot say at all right now. Our investigations will reveal that, as well as what the perpetrator's motives were.
The US military has a number of major bases near Frankfurt, which are used as hubs for operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Police have now sealed off the crime scene and security at the airport has been increased. Sylvia Lennon, Al Jazeera.
Paris prosecutors say that John Galliano will stand criminal trial for alleged racial insults. The British designer was dismissed by fashion house Christian Dior after video emerged of him praising Hitler and making anti-Semitic remarks. Galliano has apologised unreservedly for the outburst. Catherine Stansel reports.
British clothing designer John Galliano has always brought drama and controversy to the catwalk, but now he's involved in a real-life legal drama. He's going on trial for allegedly making anti-Semitic remarks to a couple in a Paris cafe last Thursday. A conviction could see him jailed for 6 months. Christian Dior suspended Galliano as creative director following last week's incident. However, the fashion house sacked him on Tuesday when mobile phone footage dating from December emerged, featuring Galliano praising Hitler.
No, but I love Hitler.